Hey, chess friends. I'm really proud of this game I played last night against international master Marc Esserman, and I was fortunate to win a game in an opening that he is famous for, known as the Morra Gambit. Mark and I are old friends, and we have a mutual friend and mentor in international Calvin Blocker, who was both of our coaches. And it's cool whenever we get to, once every few years play a speed chess game. It's always exciting. Mark is an extremely dynamic and tactical player, and if you haven't checked out his content, you really should. Anyways, let's get to the game. So I was black, and it starts off with a Smith-Morra Gambit. I accepted it and played a6 just off the cuff, honestly. I'm not really a Sicilian player these days, and I'm just kind of winging it here and play what is known as the con formation. I seem to have a vague memory of there being something called the Feingold defense that follows along the same scheme. And yeah, black is going to get some space and launch something of a counterattack. Of course, all this has been seen many times. But here, I think I played a very good move. As the saying goes, and the truism goes, knights before bishops. I played knight c6, which is apparently the top engine pick and a trending move. One of the ideas is to play knight to a5. Yeah, breaking the principles, but going for piece trades, considering we do have more material, is certainly an option. In the past, bishop b7 has been the more frequent customer, and I wanted to show a short game Mark had played a few years back against international master Justin Sarkar that went castles, pawn to b4, and now the thematic knight d5 blow. The consequences of this are rather unclear, but one thing is for certain, white is going to get a big attack against the black king that is in the center of the board, as followed. I think d6 is a mistake. Probably bishop d6 is a better option, giving the king a flight square on f8. But still, Justin played d6, and Mark played an excellent move, queen d4, patiently developing the forces. And white is almost playing as though he's not down a piece, just pitting his pieces on perfectly good squares, and the rest will take care of itself. One key point being, if bishop e7, we have the fantastic rook takes bishop, bishop takes d6, and then rook e1 is going to be an excellent decoy, or I should say deflection, winning the black queen. So the king had to go to d8 in the game, and white's pieces are a picture of optimization, even with the queen sacrifice and smothering mate against the king in the center of the board. Elegant, beautiful game. That was won by Marc Esserman in the style of Paul Morphy. So in our game, I played knight c6 and then knight a5. Mark goes rook e1, setting the mechanism for the knight d5 sacrifice. That is certainly on the agenda in this game. I traded material and played a mistake. Honestly, bishop b7 is still probably a good post for the bishop and to try to optimize the pieces. And if he goes knight d5, maybe we should not take this thing and move around the sacrifice with bishop d6. And black certainly has the idea of knight e7 and getting castled and asking white, how is he going to actually break through? Computer likes black's chances. But okay, I played d6, creating the Scheveningen formation. This shell-like structure is very common, of course, in the Sicilian. And I just want to get my pieces out safely behind these pawns and get castled. Mark attacks the target on a4, and I decided to jettison the pawn to bring his queen in line with my bishop. Maybe I can get lucky and get d5 under favorable circumstances. I will not bore you with the details of this, but perhaps pawn takes pawn is a slightly safer option. So if b takes a4, I analyze knight takes a4. It looks like black's going to get out of this, but still white has pressure. There's a very nasty idea here of bishop to a5. For example, Bishop a5. If queen takes, we can release a double attack against the rook and the queen. So white certainly has manifold resources in that variation. I played b4. He took knight f6, and suddenly black's a little bit passive here, and of course a little underdeveloped with equal material. White is better. So I did not refute the Smith-Morra Gambit in this game, but I got a playable position, and my opponent makes a slight mistake here. Bishop g5 might not be as accurate as bishop f4 first, targeting the d6 point, when black, as we can see here, is kind of in trouble. Down a pawn. Yeah, and white is winning. So bishop f4, and I would still have been in big trouble. Bishop g5 was played, and I have a good move here. Queen c7, getting out of the pin. Simple chess. He took, and I yet again made a mistake. Probably should get practical here and do a pawn sacrifice if bishop takes f6. Of course, this endgame, despite being down a pawn, black has the two bishops and plenty of targets to attack with excellent play. I decided to take with the g-pawn, reminiscent of the Rouser Sicilian, but it's a little passive. I think that Mark, however, overplays his hand and goes for the knight d5 sack, which honestly in this position, it doesn't make complete sense, but I think maybe he underestimated me and just is going to try to barrel me over in this position with a checkmate attack. It was up to me to find a defense, which I did, to hide the king in the corner and create this defensive. Is it a defensive position? More like an offensive citadel with a rook on g8 and have some fighting chances. But okay, he's optimizing his pieces and now using the pawns to push me back. And I decided to do a little repetition before advancing my position with bishop to g4 and creating some of my own counterplay. Mark attacked my bishop and then penetrated. And this was a difficult decision. I will ask you, dear reader, should I play rook c8, maintaining the tension, or should I trade pieces? Well, sometimes to take is a mistake, and I did capture the rook. Instead, rook c8 is actually a very smart move. The idea is to basically let white show his cards, and since there's no direct breakthrough, there happens to be no direct breakthrough, we'll be able to adapt to whatever configuration he does. For example, if he goes knight c6, we can just step out of the pin and be alive and kicking here. So I made a mistake and I took, then played king g7, and now Mark missed a good shot. Pawn h5. It's a deflection. The knight wants to go to f5, so let's mess with that rook. If the bishop takes, then the knight comes in check, and we can see that there is a perpetual check. Instead, if I do not take and play rook g5, there's another nice deflection, and black probably has nothing better than to go into this murky endgame with king takes. Queen takes f6 doesn't necessarily win the game at all because of rook here and black's winning. Instead, he's going to have to collect that bishop, and then we can come back. And yeah, this is... Black has... Well, black doesn't even have an extra pawn here, but black has some resources. White has... Both sides are active. It's anybody's game. What can I say? Maybe even. So instead of all that good stuff, he played f3, pushing my bishop to an ideal post, honestly, and attacking his rook. So the counterattack was there. I got to the winning position up a piece, and the rest was history with the queen trade. And I won this 3-minute game against the master of mayhem himself, international master Marc Esserman. What can I say? Like, subscribe, share with a friend. Over and out.